They banned me from every single one of their weddings. So when it was my turn, I returned the favor. And what happened next left them speechless. My name is Hannah, and I'm 27 years old, the youngest of 5 kids. My siblings, Matthew, Luke, Grace, and Aaron, are all at least 8 years older than me. Growing up, it often felt like we weren't even from the same family. By the time I was old enough to remember anything, they were already leaving home for college, careers, or starting families of their own. But none of that mattered to me when I was little. When you're the youngest, your older siblings feel larger than life. Heroes you want to impress. I adored them. I would have done anything to be included in their lives. And that's why the first rejection still cut so deep. I was 10 when my oldest brother Matthew got married. At that age, I thought I was old enough to finally be part of the grown-up moments. To dress up, walk down the aisle, maybe even be a flower girl. I remember sneaking into my mom's closet, trying on her necklaces, wondering which one she'd let me borrow for the big day. Then came the conversation I'll never forget. Mom sat me down at the kitchen table and said softly, "Sweetheart, Matthew and Sarah are having an adults-only wedding, so you won't be able to come." I laughed nervously at first, thinking she was joking, but I'm not like a little kid. I'll be quiet, I promise. She smiled in that way parents do when they know you won't understand. You'll get it when you're older. But I didn't get it. Not at all. While my parents were at the wedding, I sat at home in my room wearing the dress I'd picked out for the ceremony, staring at the clock and imagining what I was missing. I cried until my face hurt. I told myself the next time would be different. 2 years later, my second brother Luke got engaged. I was 12 then, quieter, better behaved, convinced I'd finally be considered old enough. But when they announced another child-free wedding, I got the same speech. "It's not personal, Hannah," they said. "It's just for adults." But it felt personal. How could it not? By the time Grace, my only sister, got engaged, I was 15. I thought, this has to be it. Surely I'm old enough now. And for a brief moment, I had hope. Grace originally planned to invite everyone, but after pressure from relatives about having a classy, kid-free event, she caved. The rule? No one under 16. I was 15. I begged her, literally begged. "Please, Grace, just this once. I'll sit quietly in the back if I have to." She looked at me and said, "If I make an exception for you, I have to do it for everyone. It wouldn't be fair." Fair. That word burned into me. I lost it. I yelled. My parents grounded me for disrespecting my sister. I spent 6 months in my room, silently stewing, realizing a painful truth. To them, I wasn't really family. I was just the kid, the afterthought. By the time my youngest brother Aaron got married 2 years later, I didn't even bother asking. I already knew the answer. And when I found out they invited my cousin Amanda, who'd just turned 18, barely a few months older than me, something inside me broke. I sent Aaron a simple text. "Congrats, hope it's a great day." And that was it. No tears, no begging, just numb acceptance. That was the day I stopped hoping they'd ever see me as an equal. And quietly, deep down, I promised myself something. When my day came, I wouldn't forget how they treated me, and neither would they. By the time I met the man I'd marry, I'd already given up on my family. After Aaron's wedding, the 4th one I'd been excluded from, something in me shut down. I stopped waiting for invitations, stopped trying to earn their approval, stopped hoping they'd ever see me as anything more than the kid they could push aside whenever it was convenient. So when I met Tyler, I was already guarded. We met at a friend's game night. Nothing fancy. He wasn't flashy or loud like the people I'd grown up with. He was quiet, thoughtful, the kind of man who actually listened when you spoke. I remember sitting across from him as everyone else argued over trivia answers, and for the first time in years, I felt seen. Our relationship started simple. Coffee dates, long drives, late-night talks about everything from childhood memories to future dreams. And for the first time, I realized something I'd been missing my whole life. Tyler wanted to know me. Not the polished version of me, not the afterthought, just me. 6 months into dating, I told him about my family. I remember sitting on his couch, legs tucked under me, staring at the floor as I admitted I've been banned from every one of my siblings' weddings. He blinked. "Wait, everyone? Not even when you were a teenager?" I shook my head. "Nope, child-free weddings, every time." I begged to be included, cried, yelled, and they all shut me out. He leaned back, stunned. That's seriously messed up. Hearing someone else say it out loud hit me harder than I expected. For years, I'd convinced myself it was normal, that I was overreacting. But in that moment, watching Tyler shake his head in disbelief, I realized I wasn't crazy. I'd been treated unfairly, and it was okay to admit that. Fast forward 3 years. Tyler proposed during a quiet hike at sunrise. No audience, no cameras, just us. I cried harder than I expected, not just because of the proposal, but because, for once, someone wanted me to be part of their forever without conditions. As we started planning the wedding, one question loomed over everything. Would I invite my siblings? At first I hesitated. There was a voice in my head, my mom's voice, whispering, "Family is family." But another voice, louder now, asked, "Where were they when you needed them?" Tyler never pressured me. He simply said, "It's your day. Invite the people who love you." So I made a decision that shocked even me. I wasn't inviting them. No dramatic announcements, no angry letters. I simply left them off the guest list. My wedding would be filled with people who had actually been there for me. My closest friends, Tyler's family, and a handful of relatives who'd never treated me like an outsider. I knew it would blow up eventually. I just didn't realize how fast. 2 months before the wedding, my mom called out of the blue. She sounded unusually cheerful, and I knew immediately something was up. "So," she said, stretching out the word, "how are the wedding plans coming along?" "Good," I answered cautiously. "Almost everything's done." "That's great," she said, pausing just long enough for me to brace myself. "Your brothers and sister haven't gotten their invitations yet. Did they get lost in the mail?" My heart pounded. This was it. "I didn't send them," I said flatly. Silence. Then came the explosion. "What do you mean you didn't send them?" "Hannah, they're your family." I gripped the phone tighter. "They didn't invite me to their weddings, Mom. Not a single one. This is me returning the favor." "That was different," she snapped. "You were young." "Yeah," I said bitterly, "and it hurt, and I'm done pretending it didn't." The guilt trips came fast. What would people think? How could I do this to my siblings? How petty I was being. But this time, I didn't fold. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't about revenge. It was about finally standing up for myself and refusing to let them write me out of my own life one more time. I didn't expect the backlash to be this brutal. After that phone call with my mom, everything spiraled. Within hours, my group chat with extended family lit up. First came Rachel, my older sister, feigning innocence. "Hey Hannah, was there a mistake with the mail? None of us got invitations." Then Chris chimed in, blunt as always. "What's going on? Why aren't we invited?" I stared at my phone, heart pounding, debating whether to respond. Part of me wanted to lay it all out, the years of being excluded, the tears, the begging, the silence. But another part of me knew it wouldn't matter. They didn't understand back then. Why would they start now? So I didn't reply. That silence, apparently, was an unforgivable crime. The texts turned nasty fast. "You're being childish. Grow up, Hannah. Family is forever, unless you're you, I guess." I blocked them all. But drama doesn't die easily in my family. My mom started calling daily, her voice switching between fury and fake sweetness. One day she was yelling, "You're destroying this family." The next, she was sighing, "Sweetheart, don't you want your brothers and sister to see you walk down the aisle?" I refused to budge. The final straw came when my parents showed up at my apartment unannounced. I opened the door to find my mom already mid-lecture. "Hannah, what are you thinking? Not inviting your own siblings? What kind of daughter does that?" I took a deep breath, keeping my voice calm even though my hands were shaking. The kind of daughter who spent her entire childhood begging to be included and got ignored. This isn't about payback. It's about boundaries. My dad stepped in then, his tone stern. "You're holding on to something that happened years ago. It's time to grow up." That word, childish, lit a fire in me. I was a child, I snapped. A child who cried when she wasn't allowed to see her brother get married. A child who begged to watch her sister walk down the aisle. And you all told me I didn't matter. So don't you dare call me childish for finally standing up for myself. They had no response. For once, my parents looked stunned, like it had never occurred to them that I might have been hurt all those years. After they left, Tyler found me pacing the living room. "They're not gonna stop," I muttered, voice cracking. Then we hold the line, he said simply. This is your day, Hannah. We do it on your terms. But my siblings weren't done. A few days later, Rachel posted a passive-aggressive status on Facebook. Family is forever, even when some people forget what that word means. The comments poured in from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. So sad when grudges ruin relationships. Hannah should know better. I wanted to scream. None of them knew what it was like to sit home alone during 4 weddings. None of them knew the sting of being treated like an outsider by your own blood. Tyler took my phone gently from my hands. You don't need to read this, he said. Let them talk. Let them spin whatever story they want. We know the truth. The truth was simple. I was done begging for scraps of love. The more they raged, the calmer I felt. It was like years of bottled-up hurt were finally bleeding out, replaced with something stronger, peace. But deep down, I still braced myself, because I knew my family, and I knew this war was far from over. The morning of my wedding, I woke up expecting chaos, but instead, it was quiet. Too quiet. Tyler and I had planned every detail. The little garden venue, the twinkle lights strung through the trees, the simple ceremony surrounded only by people who truly cared about us. No forced smiles, no judgment, no pretending. Still, as I stood in front of the mirror slipping into my dress, my stomach twisted with anxiety. Not about Tyler, not about getting married, about them, because I knew my family. Silence never lasted long. The calm before the storm. The ceremony was set for late afternoon. By noon, my phone buzzed with unknown numbers, voicemails I didn't bother checking. My best friend and maid of honor, Jenna, caught me staring at the screen and gently took the phone from my hand. Block them all, she said. Today isn't about them. I nodded, trying to breathe. She adjusted my veil, smiling softly. You look beautiful, Hannah. You're allowed to be happy. Don't let them steal that. Her words grounded me. For the first time in weeks, I felt steady. The walk down the aisle, Thor. When the music started, my heart pounded, not from fear, but from overwhelming relief. As I stepped into the garden, sunlight streaming through the trees, I saw Tyler waiting at the end of the aisle. His smile, it made everything else fade. No siblings, no drama, no ghosts from the past, just him, and the people who chose to love me. The ceremony itself was simple but perfect. We exchanged vows, promised forever, and when Tyler kissed me, I swear the weight of my entire childhood, the loneliness, the exclusion, the begging, lifted off my shoulders. For the first time, I felt free. The reception and the intrusion. By evening, the reception was in full swing. Laughter filled the air. Friends toasted with heartfelt speeches. Tyler's mom hugged me so tight I thought I might cry. And then a hush fell over the crowd. Jenna's face went pale as she rushed toward me. Hannah, they're here. My chest tightened. Who? Your family. All of them. I turned toward the entrance, and there they were. Mike, Chris, Rachel, Josh, and my parents standing like uninvited royalty at the edge of the garden. They hadn't been invited. They weren't welcome. But here they were anyway, the showdown. My siblings stood stiff, judgment radiating off them. Rachel was the first to speak. So this is what you call family now? She sneered, glancing at my friends. A backyard wedding without your real siblings? Tyler stepped forward instantly, his voice calm but firm. If you're here to start trouble, leave. Chris scoffed. We're here to see our sister get married, even if she didn't want us. I took a deep breath and walked toward them. My hands trembled, but my voice didn't. You don't get to call yourselves my family, I said evenly. Not after leaving me out of your lives for years. Mike frowned. We didn't mean. Yes, you did. I cut him off. You made a choice, over and over, and now I'm making mine. Rachel's eyes narrowed. You're really going to stand here and act like you're the victim? I'm not acting, I said, my voice sharp now. I was the victim, but not anymore. For a moment, no one spoke. The tension was so thick you could feel it hum in the air. Guests shifted uncomfortably, waiting to see what would happen. Finally, Tyler stepped beside me, taking my hand. This is our day, he said quietly but firmly. If you can't respect that, leave. My dad's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. One by one, they turned and walked away. No apology, no acknowledgement, just silence. And for the first time, I was okay with that. I thought I would wake up the next morning drowning in regret. But I didn't. Not the next day, not the week after, not even when the messages from my family began flooding in, accusing me of destroying the family and calling me heartless. For the first time in my life, I felt a strange calm. It wasn't happiness exactly, more like relief. After years of being overlooked and treated like I didn't matter, I'd finally chosen myself, and that choice was freeing. When Tyler and I returned from our short honeymoon, a quiet cabin by the lake where we spent mornings drinking coffee and evenings talking about the future, reality came back like a storm. My phone was filled with voicemails from my siblings and my mom, most of them dripping with anger and guilt trips. "You'll regret this," one read. "Family is forever," another said. But those words didn't carry the weight they once did. Family, I realized, isn't about blood. It's about who shows up for you, who stands by you when you're hurting, who doesn't make you beg for a place in their life. A few weeks later, my mom appeared at my door unannounced. I opened it to see her standing there with that same disappointed look she always wore when she wanted me to cave. "Your brothers and sister are devastated," she began, her voice trembling. "Do you really think this is how families should treat each other?" I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I simply asked, where was that concern when I was 10, when I was 15, when I begged to be at their weddings and they shut me out every single time? She faltered, searching for an answer she didn't have. "They were young," she finally muttered. "So was I said quietly, "and I'm done pretending it didn't hurt." She stood there in silence, stunned. For the first time, she saw me not as the little girl desperate for attention, but as a grown woman unwilling to be dismissed anymore. And that silence was all the closure I needed. I closed the door gently, not in anger, but in peace. From that moment on, the messages slowed. The arguments faded. My siblings eventually stopped trying to drag me into family group chats or posting vague jabs online, and I stopped checking for their approval. For the first time, I wasn't waiting for them to choose me. I had already chosen myself. Life after the wedding wasn't perfect, but it was quiet. Tyler and I built our own traditions, surrounded ourselves with people who genuinely cared, and finally felt free from the weight of always being the afterthought. Sometimes I catch myself wondering if my siblings will ever understand why I did what I did. But then I remember, it doesn't matter if they do. My peace isn't up for debate. I used to believe family was about obligation, about doing whatever it took to belong. But standing there at my own wedding, surrounded by friends who loved me unconditionally, I learned something far more important. Family is who chooses you, not who shares your last name. So no, I don't regret leaving them off the guest list, because for the first time in my life, I stopped begging for a seat at their table and built my own. If this story resonates with you, if you've ever been made to feel small by the people who were supposed to love you most, remember this: you're allowed to draw boundaries, even with family. You're allowed to choose your peace, and you're allowed to start fresh with the people who truly see your worth. And if you want to hear more real stories like this one, stories about standing up for yourself, finding closure, and moving forward, follow this channel, because you deserve to know you're not alone.